This is Making Stitches, and this time we hear from Catherine Crochets, about her love of tapestry crochet and just how addictive it can be.
I personally think it's a lot easier than patterns where you're having to change and do lots of fancy stitches and where there's lots of variation in them. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting to hear. I think it's something I've not done a lot of, only when it's appeared in a wider like a blanket pattern, which is made up of lots of variety. Yeah. So, maybe I need to have a little dabble myself then.
Start off perhaps with a small square or hexagon, and then you can see if you like it, and put another one next to it and watch it grow, and then you won't be able to stop.
I will hold you responsible.
Yeah, sorry to your family.
Hello and welcome to Making Stitches. I'm Lindsay and I'm sorry this episode has taken so long to appear. It should have been out 6 months ago, but unfortunately life rather got in the way of podcasting. I've put a post on my blog last weekend about some of the things that have been happening to explain my absence, so I won't repeat it here. You can find that at makingstitches.co.uk if you want to read it. Now back to Catherine of Catherine Crochets. I tempted you with this chat at the very end of 2022, and thank you very much for your patience, having to wait 6 months for it to come out. Well, here it is now. Catherine is a South London-based crochet designer who specialises in tapestry crochet. For those who haven't heard of the technique before, it's a form of colour work in crochet where 2 or more colours are worked in a single row and you carry along the unused yarns behind as you go, which then means that you have less ends to sew in at the end, which is always a win in my book. Catherine designs beautiful geometric patterned blankets and cushions as well as other items too. And some of her beautiful works are really reminiscent of the gorgeous tiles you see in southern Spain and in Moorish architecture. I think that may be why I was drawn to it after spending so long down in Gibraltar and being exposed to the fabulous interlocking patterns of the tiles there. Catherine first started crocheting just as she was about to give birth to her second child, and it has become a big part of her life ever since. She's designed for yarn companies, magazines, and had her work included in books too. Towards the end of last year, her crochet work brought her up north and just down the road from me as she made an appearance as a guest designer at the Crochet Sanctuary at Cranage Hall in North Cheshire. I was lucky enough to be able to go along and meet her before her crochet session at the sanctuary. I don't know if you can hear the birds tweeting in the trees in the background, but you find me in rural Cheshire today. I've come to Cranage Hall, which is just south of Manchester and is the venue for the Crochet Sanctuary weekends. And that's because my guest for this episode is Catherine from Catherine Crochets, and she is the guest designer for the November Crochet Sanctuary weekend. And I just popped along before she did her workshop to find out a little bit more about what she does and how she ended up doing it. Here's our chat now. Catherine, it's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
In such beautiful surroundings as well here in Cheshire.
Yeah.
So you're here at the moment for the Crochet Sanctuary weekend.
I am.
You're the guest designer.
Yeah.
I believe that's the first time you've done something like this.
It is, yeah. So it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to hosting the workshop later this afternoon. So fingers crossed it all goes well.
I'm sure it will. They're a lovely bunch of ladies.
They are, yeah, really friendly, yeah.
Absolutely, you'll be amongst friends, so I'm sure it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, can I take you back to your beginnings in crochet, because I believe it's relatively recently.
Yeah, it is really, yeah. I did a tiny bit as a child. I think I learned how to do a chain, and that was about it. I think there's a bit in the Brownie handbook which tells you how to do it, and I asked my mum to show me, and I did that, but didn't take it any further at all. And then, like so many people, it was after I'd had my second child actually, that I'm not sure really why or where it came from. I think I'd seen actually some photos online of some gorgeous stripy crochet blankets that someone was making and selling, and they were just in lots and lots of different random colours, just stripes, and she was making them and selling them for people to put over their children in their buggies. And I thought, wow, they look brilliant, I'd love to make something like that. And I think that was probably the initial spark that got me interested in having a go. And I never actually did make a blanket exactly like that. But then the mind goes a bit blank, to be honest. But I think I must have looked up somewhere how to do it. Maybe I bought a book. I think I bought a book, and started from there really. And so that was probably about 2017, 2018, around about then. Yeah, and just kept going.
Blimey, so it's taken you on quite a path then to lead you where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, but it's been really good to have that interest in it. So portable, and it just fits really well around family life. You can do it at any time and place. It's really good.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that actually. It was when my around about the time I was expecting my third child that crochet really came to me. I'd done a little bit as a child, but it never really amounted to anything. But knitting, I found, is really hard, because you can have periods of time where you haven't got the time with young children, have you, to actually pick it up, and then your tension changes, and then the cardigan sleeve that you were working on 6 months ago goes wonky, whereas you've only ever got one sort of loop on your hook at any one time, so you can put it down and come back to it with crochet.
It's really easy to put down.
So at what stage then did you go from thinking about making a pram blanket to properly designing?
Well, the first design that I came up with was, it was a blanket called the Geo Georgie blanket, which it's a tapestry crochet blanket with different sections of sort of quite geometric patterns, as the name sort of suggests. So there's some triangles, some diamonds, and some zigzags. And I'd seen some tapestry crochet in a picture online. So much inspiration comes from things like that. I think it was some small accessory. It might have been a scarf or a hat or something like that. And it had just some very simple, it looked geometric patterns with tapestry crochet. And I thought, well, that looks like a fun technique. I could have a go at that. And I had this idea for a blanket with different sections of different patterns, and made it, and it seemed to go down quite well. So it just sort of snowballed from there, really.
Brilliant. Yeah. And then you started publishing your own patterns. Yeah.
So I published that one, and it went quite well. And then there was a couple of small cushions, and then I released a pattern called the Midnight Diamond blanket, which is squares made with tapestry crochet. And each square has a pattern on it, but when you join them together, the patterns kind of link up, and it forms a bigger pattern over the whole blanket. And I was absolutely astounded at how popular that one was, really. It's just been incredible, and people are still buying the pattern and enjoying making it today. I think I was talking to someone here about it last night, and they were explaining one of the things they really like about it is how the pattern spreads over the squares, and that it sort of makes it quite addictive. I think you just want to make one more square to add to it, and I think that when patterns have that addictive quality, it really, really helps people want to make them. So that was obviously an absolutely massive boost to my confidence, how well that one's been. And then I haven't really stopped since then. I think it takes so long I make everything myself as well, especially blankets. They do take a while to make. So by the time I've finished one, there's been plenty of time for me to have lots of other ideas for the next thing. And sometimes it's just hard choosing what to work on next.
I can well imagine if your mind's just popping off with all this inspiration.
Yeah, there's just never enough time in the day to crochet it all.
I think a lot of people will agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a common problem.
Now, your blankets, there is a look to your blanket. You have a particular style.
Yeah.
Is that something that just kind of happened?
I think so, yeah. To be honest, I think, it's not quite sure where it's come from. I think some of them are more perhaps geometric than others. Some are a bit more perhaps curvy or botanical. But yeah, I think some of the inspiration, especially the idea of the patterns going across the squares, come from seeing patterns doing that in ceramic tiles. And then others are just, well, like I've got a blanket of hexagons, each one's got a snowflake in it. And that's just comes from snowflakes, and thinking, well, a hexagon's obviously the perfect shape to put a snowflake in, having 6 sides. So, yeah, and then I've got one with fish, so that was just thought it'd be fun for children. Yeah,
it's a particular technique, isn't it, which is kind of a level up from your basic blankets. What was it that kind of sparked off that idea to go down that route for you?
I think it was just seeing patterns on tiles, and which are obviously made with 2 different colours, and thinking, well, I could do that in crochet. And I think I just discovered tapestry crochet first before mosaic, to be honest, and that was why I use tapestry crochet for making the colourwork patterns that I do. I do enjoy doing mosaic crochet as well. I find it's a little bit thicker, the resulting sort of fabric that you make, and I don't know that it's ever double-sided, so I quite like that with the blanket, although there's a definite front and back to it. I quite like that, you know, you can still see the pattern on the back. Some of them are exactly the same on both sides if you work it in rows going back and forth. But yeah, some of the ones that are made like the squares, you can tell which is the front and the back, but you can still see the pattern on both sides. But I love mosaic crochet as well. Yeah.
Your work seems quite mathematical, if that's the right way to put it. Is that your background?
I have a physics background, so yeah, quite a mathematical background, yeah. I do love maths, so I think that sort of perhaps comes out in what I'm doing, yeah, and how things fit together, and yeah.
And were you creative as a child?
I always enjoyed crafts, arts and crafts. I remember doing a lot, and my friends were always really creative as well. We really enjoyed making things, and I remember in our teenage years we'd always make our birthday cards to give to each other, and not always, but quite often we'd give each other handmade presents as well, all sorts of things. They could be papier-mâché or sewing, all sorts of things, but I remember doing that as a child, so it's definitely something I really enjoyed. And then I think as I approached adulthood, you find less time and your interests shift a bit. So then it wasn't really until having kids again, starting a family, I think something about it sometimes draws out your creative side again and wanting to make something with your hands. Yeah.
And do you do any other crafts alongside your crochet, or is there no time for that?
Well, I have recently started doing a little bit of knitting. I learned how to knit as a child, but just very, very basic. Then last winter I knitted a hat and enjoyed it and thought I'd like to do a bit more knitting. And so this winter I've just finished about a few weeks ago a jumper, and I'm currently knitting my first ever knitted sock.
Oh wow.
But I'm trying to limit myself to only have one knitting project on the go at once, because I don't want it to take over and detract from the crochet. But I am really enjoying having that. It's nice to switch between hook and needles and doing something slightly different. So sometimes I just feel like doing a bit of knitting, and it's nice to have something to pull out and work on.
I can imagine. And it must be quite nice to work on something that you're not writing the pattern for.
Absolutely.
Just to give your brain a break, really.
Yeah. Although at the moment, for me, with my level of knitting, I'm having to follow the patterns very closely. And I'm watching lots of YouTube videos at every 5 minutes to figure out how to do each new step.
Thank goodness for YouTube.
Exactly, yeah.
So can I ask you what you're working on at the moment?
So crochet-wise, the current design I'm working on is a set of mittens, a mitten design in 5 sizes, and just about to send the pattern out to be tested, and I'm hoping that will come out in the next couple of weeks once it's been tested. And I've got an idea for a new blanket, which I've just started working on. And I'm still liking the idea, but the colours that I've started with aren't quite right, so I'm going to have to try and start it again with some slightly different colours, I think. Well, one of them definitely needs changing.
How interesting. I shall watch with interest.
Yeah. It's a bit of a wintry design, so it's probably not the best time to be starting on it, because by the time it's finished it's probably going to be spring, but it's not too wintry, so I don't know whether I'll hold back and wait until next autumn to release it or not. We'll see.
I can imagine that's quite hard if you're working seasonally and having to work on things out of season.
I'm really bad at that. I think that's something I definitely need to get better at, because I tend to be inspired by the current season, but that's too late if you're making something for that season. Luckily with mittens they're quite small, but I've really tried hard to think I really want to get this pattern out before Christmas. Not that January would be terrible for mittens, but to try and make the most of it being available over the winter. But yeah, I think especially with blankets, if you're doing a seasonal blanket, I really need to think about it a lot more in advance. Lots of my designs aren't really seasonal though, so that helps. I can just do them whenever I want. But if I have like you say, a seasonal design, it's I don't know, you either need to just release it out of season and hope for the best and boost it again.
Yes. When it comes around again.
Yeah, or hold back and wait. Yeah, but it's hard when you've got something, you just want to get it out there.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
because you're full of enthusiasm for the thing you've just made, aren't you?
Yeah.
So taking you back to when you first started designing, and obviously you self-published your pattern, what was it like then moving to the next step and actually designing for magazines and other organisations?
That was exciting. It wasn't too difficult initially. So I think I contacted a few of the crochet magazines to ask sort of how it works, and some of them had sort of on their website people to contact or forms to fill in, and I think probably because I'm just such a new designer, I only heard back from one of them, but straight away they were just happy to put me on their mailing list for call outs. So I started receiving the call outs for submissions every quarter with the theme, and submitted. So the first one that I submitted to a magazine was the snowflake design I mentioned earlier in the hexagons, the snowstorm blanket. And they said, yeah, we love it, we'd like to publish that. So that started it. So I had a flurry then of a run of maybe 6 or 7, sort of spaced out every 3 months or so. Probably not quite 7, maybe 5 or 6 patterns in magazines. I haven't done any recently though. I've just not got round to making the submissions, and I think I'm enjoying at the moment just working freely to my own schedule and doing the designs that I want to do. Then I also, last year, or was it earlier this year? I think it came out earlier this year. I had a few designs of crochet tiles, they were called crochet motifs, in a book called 100 Crochet Tiles, which had lots of designers contributing to it. So I was asked if I'd like to contribute some designs to that the previous summer, and said yes straight away. And then scratched my head and came up with 5 different square and hexagon designs to go in the book. So that was quite good fun, and that was I just had to make single squares and hexagons, so that was rather than a whole blanket. So it was fun playing around and coming up with the designs, and there wasn't a big time consuming making a whole project from them afterwards. So that was really good to do that.
Yeah. Do you find getting suggestions from people to design for you actually sparks your inspiration then and takes you off on a different route that you wouldn't have thought of?
Sometimes it can. Yeah, I think with the tiles, that was very for the book, that was very just anything square or hexagon really, and sort of tile themed, but I think you can put almost anything on a tile, can't you? Yeah. So as long as it's got some sort of pattern on it. But when I'm submitting to a magazine, they send you a mood board with the theme for that particular issue, and sometimes it's got examples of other crochet or knitted items on it, and sometimes it's just pictures of nature or locations or cups of coffee or just other things to inspire you. So that always seems, it's hard not to look at those sorts of images and have them not trigger ideas in your mind as to what you might want to make. Yeah.
That's really interesting to know, actually, because I guess I imagine that as a designer you have your own kind of route that you expect to go down, but then if you get suggestions from elsewhere it'll spark off other ideas, and like you said, there aren't enough hours in the day then.
No, I think the ideas just come from anywhere at any time, really. Yeah.
That's fabulous. Now, but for somebody who's not ever attempted your style of crochet, it does look quite complicated.
It does, yeah. And I think some people are quite wary of trying it, but it honestly isn't that difficult. I know I would say that, wouldn't I? But I really don't think it is, because it's, when you're doing tapestry crochet, pretty much you're always using the same stitch the whole time, just simple. It could be UK treble, UK half treble, UK double crochet, but it's just going to be generally basic stitches. A few of my more recent designs I've started doing perhaps like treble 2 together and then putting 2 in the next stitch, which I quite like the effect that gives for sort of a smoother outline on your colour changes. But to be honest, that's as complicated as it gets, and then the rest of it is literally just counting how many you do in one colour before you switch to the next colour. So if you can, most of my designs, not quite all, some of them don't lend themselves to it, but most of them come with a chart, say, of squares in different colours, so you can see what colour each stitch is you're supposed to be doing. And so it's a bit like following a cross-stitch chart, really, and just filling in making each stitch with the appropriate colour, sort of filling it in as you go. So I think once you get the hang of it, it's not, it really isn't as hard as or daunting as it might look. And I personally think it's a lot easier than patterns where you're having to change and do lots of fancy stitches and where there's lots of variation in them. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting to hear. I think it's something I've not done a lot of, only when it's appeared in a wider like a blanket pattern, which is made up of lots of variety. So maybe I need to have a little dabble myself then.
Start off perhaps with a small square or hexagon, and then you can see if you like it, and put another one next to it and watch it grow, and then you won't be able to stop.
I will hold you responsible.
Yeah, sorry to your family.
Oh dear. Oh well, it's been lovely to meet you, Catherine.
You too.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for asking me.
And good luck with your workshop this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Catherine for speaking to me for Making Stitches, and apologies again for taking so long to get this out to you. My thanks also to Lisa and Linda Rose at the Crochet Sanctuary for allowing me to gate crash on that Saturday morning. Now, this episode was due to be the last episode of the series, and indeed it is. As things have changed for me so much since I last spoke to you, I'm having to change the way I podcast and how regularly I podcast too. For now, I'm unable to release a series at a time. I'll be putting out standalone episodes as and when they're ready. I know that's less than ideal, but I hope you understand that's all I can manage at the moment. If you continue to follow Making Stitches on your podcast app of choice and on social media, you shouldn't miss out on any future episodes when they arrive. Something the last few months have taught me is the need to be flexible, patient, and just do the best you can, and that's what I'll endeavour to do. Thank you for listening and for all your support this far. Until next time, take care and enjoy your crafting.